Hey, how's it going, Robert? Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Howdy. How are you? I got my earbuds in here, but I got sitting in my lounge chair and my big screen 65-inch TV on my Mac Mini. So,
Awesome. Sounds like a good setup right there.
well, no camera on it, but who cares anyway? If I put the camera on it, scare everybody away. So,
Sure, it's not that bad. Yeah, so how's
so
your
how
week been?
many? Well, I've been working on the whole trying to get some monetization going, and I was wondering, so have you been selling products yourself, and what kind of stuff have you had good luck with there?
Yeah, so far I made like my first sale. That was last week. So it was at like a little car boot sale, which is an interesting one. So I'm on like a kind of journey to make my first sales as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Hey, how's it going? How's it going, Moose?
Hi, folks.
Hey,
You know, you catch me right in the middle of making dinner on Thursday
Oh,
night, 7. My
no way. Yeah. Hey, how's it
It's
going, Dominic?
okay, but I'm making meatball sandwiches in case you're interested.
That sounds tasty. Save me one.
Okay, I got plenty.
Lovely.
so Mike, where's your link to your product? Can you put that? What you're selling?
Yeah, so right now it's not online products yet. This was just
Oh,
like in person. So I am
oh
looking at
yeah.
the online space. I've been researching a lot on
Your
Etsy.
20-minute timer on kitchen dot is
Um,
ringing.
Let me quickly get Eric in here.
Your 20-minute timer on kitchen dot is ringing.
Sounds like we need
Eh,
to mute somebody there.
Here we go.
how's it going, Eric?
Good, thanks, Mike.
Lovely, lovely. Yeah, how's your week? How's your week been, Eric?
Oh, busy, 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 busy. Yeah.
Yeah, is that a good thing or bad thing?
Ah, it's good.
Good to hear, man. Good to hear. And how about you, Dominic? How's things with you?
I'm doing okay. A little busy still. Can't get to do the things I want to do.
Yeah, that's understandable. Yeah, I want to ask you guys, how's my mic? Because I know I've got some background noise. I'm not too sure if that's coming through now. I think I've fixed my mic a little bit. So how does it sound
It's
to you guys?
it's a bit of a
Just
scratchy sound with it. Yeah.
yeah, like scraping or scratching something.
Okay, yeah, that's like this, just the background noise. That's the 3D printers going. So, um,
Oh, you
Oh, okay.
yeah, hopefully it's not too bad. I've changed a few of my mic settings to make it not come through as much. But it should be a little bit better. Yeah, yeah.
might try turning your. It's not pointing towards the printers, is it?
Not as much. I don't think it
Yeah.
is.
And you
Yeah,
got
yeah.
unidirectional on that mic.
I think it's not the. I think it's the other one. I think it's just from this bottom side here.
Oh yeah, there should be a unidirection setting, and so it only comes from that. Yeah, one direction.
Okay, I have to look into that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's something called Omni, which is all directions, and then something called Figure Eight.
Okay. Sounds
I used
technical.
to own a I was in the recording business a few
Oh,
years ago,
nice.
quite a few years ago. So,
Well,
Hey, Mike,
what was you
what
recording there?
video card do you have? Mike,
pardon?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
What
Was
video card do you have, Mike?
video card? I think I just have a standard, just got a standard one. So I'm using a Fujifilm X-T4. So that's the
Okay,
camera.
so no, I'm curious because certain NVIDIA video cards have a program that you can install that actually modifies your audio when you're using a microphone, like when you're making a YouTube video, for instance, and it uh, basically shapes the waveform so that you can block out background noises and etc. It's pretty neat, but you have to have a pretty powerful NVIDIA card. I forget what the cutoff. I want to say it's a 3060, but I could be wrong. But in any case, I'm sorry I didn't mean to interrupt you guys. You are booming though when you're on your microphone. Your audio is substantially louder than everybody else's. Just so you know.
Okay, let me quickly check. I can try and turn it down. Let's see.
Just push it away about 3, 4, 5 inches and see if that helps.
Okay, I'll turn it down on here. How's that sound now? Is that a bit better?
Oh, normal to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll turn it down a few decibels. Maybe I'll go a few more. Let's see if that makes a difference.
That's it. That's better.
Dominic, what are you drinking? I'm chewing ice.
I wish it was something stronger, but it's just water.
Yeah, me too. But
Lovely.
it's a bad habit.
I just got done with dinner myself, so I was like, okay.
Okay, we got Stan in here. How's it going, Stan? I think your microphone.
As a reminder.
I think you're still muted, Stan. Maybe some microphone settings or something like that. Yeah. Yeah, sounds like everyone's having a pretty busy week over here. Which is good stuff. So yeah, basically for this meeting, I just wanted to kind of check in with everyone, and I had basically like a nice little case study that I found. So it's on the Facebook group that I've been using quite a bit. So it's basically a guy who's asking for like advice based on quite a big order that he has in terms of 3D printing. So I'll try and share my screen and like present, and then you guys can kind of I can kind of show you what's going on with that, and then we can have like a little discussion on that. Okay, so let me see how I can present this. So I made a nice little Word document application. Let's see if that comes through. I'm just checking for Word. Let's see. For some reason, Word is not showing up on the applications. So I guess I can just try and share my entire screen and see if that comes through. Okay.
Yep, you got it.
Okay.
I
So
really have audio.
was that Stan speaking?
Allegedly have audio. Do you hear me now?
Yes, yes, yes.
So
Yeah,
then
I
I
can
will
hear you
shut
now.
up and let you continue. Sorry for the inconvenience.
No worries. So can you guys see my screen here?
Yes.
Okay, sweet. So basically, this is the group 3D printed profits. It's like a side hustle group with 3D printing. So I've seen this guy and he asked an interesting kind of question. So this is like a nice little case study. So I'll just kind of read this through and then we can kind of discuss it. So he says, looking for some perspective from anyone in the manufacturing side of things. I designed and created a part for one of my business customers and they love the design. They want to order 5,000 units. Problem is, I'm just a small shop at this point, sitting at 10 printers. The part costs, electricity, part wear, my time, support removal, and filament. That's $4.08. And the customer is willing to pay 18 each, leaving a ton of room for options. So my question is, when is the next best roll to use? If I were to straight print these items, it would take over 100 days of printing. They're looking for a bit of a quicker turnaround time. I've suggested a look at injection molding, but the part I make is going to change each year for the foreseeable future, and it's not feasible for them to buy molds every year. Should I just invest in more printers? I don't really have the space, so then I would need to look at renting a space, etc., and it just spirals out of control from there. I've put in a few quotes to a few printing companies to see what they say, but for now I'm wondering if there are other avenues I'm not considering. And then
Well, first thing, did he say how big the part is?
No, he didn't say. He didn't specify how big the part is.
Yeah, I didn't see that. If he was to get, maybe you should, maybe reply back and ask him how big it is. is then if he was small enough to fit on like one of those little A1 minis, I think they still have those for $200 a pop. He could buy a few of those and make a big difference. But depends on how big it is.
Yeah, very good point. Very good point. So I wrote down a few notes based on what he said in the comments. So here's some considerations for his particular case, right? So the original poster, he lives in a HOA, so he has limited options for building out spaces such as the shed or print farm area. And the business wants this to be a yearly thing with an updated design. And then the parts are for a product line that they want to swap all over to new parts at once. So basically, it's like it can't really be drip fed. It has to be like a whole kind of like order at once, pretty much, right? So when they swap can be negotiated. And then the original poster has other manufacturing customers, so it doesn't want to lock up all 3D printers for 100 days and wants to keep good relations with other customers. So
Well,
yeah,
seems to me he really doesn't have a whole lot of options. He can either farm it out to some other commercial print farm, or he can put together his own print farm, depending on what the size of the print is. 10 A1s, okay, it'll cut his profit in half the first year, but if that lets him get it done in 10 days or 20 days rather than 100, he's got the capacity for his other customers as well. And if it's something bigger than that, well, then I guess it depends on how much room he has in his basement, washroom, second bathroom, wherever he can dump them in. We've all done weird things when we've been in limited circumstances.
very
Well,
true.
I don't see anything there also about the material that he's working with. Is he
Very
standard
true.
PLA or is he moving? Do they want something ABS? I mean, that also makes a difference because it can get complicated. You start getting into things like nylon and ABS. You can't
Yeah.
just throw them on a mini.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Well, and then
and good
the
ventilation.
with 5,000 units with about a $14 net or gross net each is $90,000. So I would think he would have some options. Look at some space and work out a deal, especially if he got this deal for a couple of years. Man, I can't believe it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
It's massive.
yeah, throwing 10 or 20 A1s at well, his he's saying that his profit is about 14 each.
Yeah, that's where the
But still,
90,000 come
if
from.
you've got a one shot 50K coming in, dropping 4K on 20 A1s is piddly diddly.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
Assuming you've got a credit card that's got a sufficient ability to absorb that hit and the customer pays on time and everything goes lickety split, you're not hanging too much over the edge for that rate of return.
Well, the other thing is he doesn't specify how much of his other business, what other stuff he's doing. So
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he just says he's got other folks in there doesn't want to lock up all 3D printers for 100 days. Don't know how many printers he's already got, I don't think.
yeah,
Okay.
and if he's
It's got 10.
oh,
He
Yeah, he
says
has
he's
10
got-
machines.
I wonder the size of the parts he's looking at.
Yeah,
Manufacturer, and if possible, whether resin might be a viable alternative to FDM on those.
That's
You
true.
know,
That's a good point.
you
that
can,
is
you
because
can
that would
cram
be a
a
lot.
lot of parts on a resin plate that you can't on a.
Yeah, I mean, the one large order that I had for small parts, I made these little rollers. They're roughly about a quarter of an inch by a half an inch in diameter with a small 60 thousandths hole in the center of them. Long story short, I made them out of ABS. Then the orders started becoming a little bit crazy where the guy wanted more of them faster than I could produce on one machine. Now, I was using ABS and I was using it on a MakerBot, my old MakerBot, which I basically dedicated it to doing ABS parts. One part took 3 minutes. I'm sorry, 30 minutes to print out. I did some scaling, only to find that the amount of time gets cut quite a bit when you go to 2 parts. But as soon as you go past 2, the curve starts to flatten out. You don't start gaining much in the way of time anymore. It gets slower and slower. I ended up having one printer run probably 12 hours to produce 25 parts, because what I did was I just ganged them on one platen. The platen on the MakerBot was only good for, it was a 6x9. So I tried to keep them centralized. I tried to keep them close to each other to minimize the movement and stuff, but it created other problems with the cooling of the material. And you made one part, it came out perfect. You made 25 parts. Now all of a sudden the first part didn't look like the last part. So a lot of crazy things started happening. But long story short, I worked them out where I minimized the number of parts and spaced them apart far enough so that they all kind of came together. I ended up buying another MakerBot, an old wooden one that somebody was trying to get rid of because they didn't want it anymore. But I had the program, I had all the details on it. I brought it in. They said it wasn't working, and there were 2 wires that weren't hooked up. I got it back and got it working, tweaked it the same as the one of my original, brought in the same Sailfish software or firmware, and I was able to complete the order. Those parts I was charging, I'm trying to remember because it was a while ago, but I was charging maybe three or $4 a piece. And I must have made, I don't know, 3,000 of them. So it was a nice chunk of change. But those 2 printers were running day and night for weeks because he wanted them as quickly as I could make them, and I really didn't want to buy another machine because it was. Well, I did end up buying other machines, but not that one.
Very nice. And what part did you say that was?
It was a small little roller. Hang on a second, I'm sitting over here. This is the large one. I don't know if you can see this in the camera real well. This is the large one that I did. Has a little bit of a boss on the bottom of it. It's on the shiny side because I did make them out of ABS, and I did a secondary op on them, and I did acetone vapor smoothing on them to make them really nice and glossy and shiny and smooth, which the customer liked a lot. The smaller part. Here. Get you some more light. Hold on. Sorry. There we go. That should help. So this is the smaller part.
Okay.
Very nice.
That's the hole in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's good.
What is it? Just a tube?
It's actually a roller made for printers. This particular gentleman supports Kodak machines that are no longer supported by Kodak. There were thousands of them made back in the 80s, and they sent them all over the world. And this guy turned a business into supporting the older machines that Kodak says, you know what, we don't support that anymore. Spend $5 million and we'll get you a new machine. So they said, no, we're not going to do that. They're printing presses for offset printing. They're not typical.
Mm-hmm.
And these are the parts of the machine that actually laser cut into aluminum panels the actual pre-press holes or print. They get laser cut into the aluminum sheets, and those end up making the prints.
So Dominic, do you by using ABS, do you have a good ventilation system organised?
When it came to printing them, it wasn't honestly, it did not cause much of an issue for me. I didn't think it did. I don't smell much of it. My machine was enclosed. So what I did was I enclosed it, and let me see if I can. I unfortunately can't zoom in, but if you look right up, let me see right there, you'll see I got this cover on the top, and on it, it has a little fan with a carbon filter. Thank you. I just threw a blank on that. They sell them for the machines, but I was like, I didn't want to spend the money that they wanted. I was able to find the filter fans and the replaceable filters and put them on the machines. As far as the finish of the ABS and acetone vapor, that was done outdoors. I did not do that indoors. It's a tricky process. For those that have ever done it or know about it, flash point of acetone can get away from you very quickly. So I had sensors. As a mechanical engineer, I did as much as I could to keep myself safe, sensing temperatures, a lot of ventilation, being outdoors, and me wearing my son's. He's a volunteer fire department, so I use his vapor masks to keep myself from breathing anything in.
That's good.
Very nice.
Hey,
Very
Mike,
nice.
could you put that post back, or you have a link to that post?
Yeah, I can present it again. 1 second.
Yeah, is that just a screenshot or?
Yeah, so it's screenshot, and then I've written some notes on it. Let me
Yeah, I
let
saw
me
the
share that
notes. I thought that's what you wanted. I just wondered. I was gonna go take a look at that and see what's happened with it.
Yeah, I can basically I'll put the link in here in the chat. So basically, it is a private
I'd like to
Facebook
see
group.
that.
So you have to basically apply to join. So it's a quick
Yeah.
little application thing, and then you can start to see all the posts in
Yeah.
there.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm not too sure if I can share. Can I share
Oh
pictures
yeah.
in here?
3D printing side hustle group. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
already was a member.
Very nice, very nice. Oh yeah, I wrote some more notes. So obviously we've seen a case study. So I wrote down some discussion stuff down here. So yeah, so it's the 5,000 units, $18 a piece. That's $90,000. So we already went over that. So someone did mention about making the business have an upfront payment within the contract, so you can get 50% now, maybe 50% after. And then in terms of him making the actual prints, you could try and clear out a space if possible. There's some good comments in there saying like hire a contractor to add or remove walls to have a better layout for the machines. And then if not, you can kind of rent out an apartment, fill it up with printers. And someone suggested that you can even rent like a place for 3 months, because usually it's like a yearly lease, right? So you can rent a place for 3 months, maybe an extra 30% down. It's not usually advertised, so you'd have to try and ask around and like call around. So yeah, something like buying 20 Bamboo Lab A1s. Obviously, someone suggested a mini. If it can obviously use that kind of volume, which would be good, and you can get the job done like within a month based on his on his factors. So he said if 10 printers take 100 days, 20 printers should take around 50 days. You know, so you can add another 10 there, cut it down even more.
Did he say he had 10 printers? I was curious.
Yeah.
Was that in there that he has?
Yeah, this part here.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, there it is.
He says he's just in a small shop as well, so that's a big part of it.
Of course, if they're 2 original Ender 3s that aren't clipperized, it's not too surprising it's taken a while, is it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And does he say what printer he actually has? I don't think he mentioned.
No.
Yeah, no idea.
Yeah, so that could be another thing as well. Yeah. What else was there here? So yeah, cost of materials. Obviously you can buy in bulk when it comes to big amounts of filament. Buying in bulk is obviously going to save you a lot more money than buying like one at a time, like especially with like Amazon prices. You can try to get some good deals, but also you have to look at how long the delivery is for the actual filament, because sometimes the bulk ones can take a bit more time and you might not have the time if you want a quick turnaround. So that's another kind of consideration. And
the quality of the filament too. I mean,
Yeah,
there,
definitely,
you
definitely.
know, there's stuff that I'm delighted to use voxel PLA for drawer dividers and that kind of stuff in my shop, but it's not my go-to PLA. You know, I'll go for the Polylite Pro most every time when I want a guaranteed.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Um, although actually the bamboo filament in the Bamboo A1 Mini does deliver very good results, and in some
Yeah.
cases it seems to actually play nicer than the Polymaker. But
Yeah.
you know, a lot of times folks start trying to cut 3 cents off per part, and they end up with some gooey, nasty stuff that 20% is waste, and or something falls off the print bed right in the middle of 50 parts on there and then starts knocking all the other ones off. And
wow.
you know, I mean, it's a different thing. I used to be involved in some production stuff, and it was like, man, knock all the variables out you can right up front, because if you don't pay attention to all of them, they'll come up and bite you in embarrassing ways.
Yeah, that was definitely a big problem when I was doing. I tried getting up to like 50 parts on a machine, going, well, if 25 is good, 50 is twice as good.
Yeah,
Except that when one part went bad, there was no coming back from it.
yeah,
It
and
was
it
like,
sticks to the
stop it.
print head and starts smacking the snot out of all your other
Oh,
49 parts.
Yeah, it was. Oh, I woke up one day to a rat's nest that I went, no, we can't do this. I can't
Yeah,
lose 50 pieces at a clip. You know, a whole day's worth of work just went right down the toilet. I
Wow.
said, no, no, no.
Yeah, it's
So
tough.
I had to decide how much did I want to lose if something went wrong.
Good point. Good point. You have to weigh that up as well, isn't it? Because what do you use adhesive on your build plate?
I do when I want to make sure that nothing wants to come off. The stuff I use is called nanopolymer adhesive.
Yeah, I've
I
heard
will,
that.
yeah, I will warn you about this stuff though. What I do is I mix it 50-50 with water, because I did it once when I printed with Ultim. This was at work. I don't know if anybody's familiar with the material, but it's a high temperature material. And they warned me, make sure you take it off while it's hot. And I forgot. And the
oh,
next day I went back and it had adhered to the glass plate so well that as it cooled, it literally snapped the plate and pulled part of the glass off of the plate. And so I
That's
went
whoa.
and got a
insane.
carbon fiber plate to replace it at work. But
Wow.
the stuff is phenomenal. It works really really well on. I use Wham Bam PET um, covers on all of my uh, machines. They all have the metal flexible pop them off type of thing.
Okay.
And I use this. I cut it to 50% water, and it does just a great job. Sometimes a little too great, but no damage gets done. So it's good.
did
And
you
it's
say
not cheap either.
Okay.
you're using their pet film rather than their PEX?
Um, I may have misspoken, but let me hang on.
That's all right.
You're right. It's PEX, not PET. Sorry.
Yeah, the PEX stuff is very nice as long as you follow their instructions
Yeah.
about prepping it. Yeah. I mean,
Although I'm not real thrilled with their idea of scrubbing it down with steel wool. And the big reason for that is it's magnetic. And I get all of these little hairs stuck to my platen. And so I switched over to like a hard brass um,
oh, okay.
instead
I
of a steel wool,
yeah,
something that's not magnetic.
I didn't do it on the bed. I made sure it was scrubbed off real well before it ever got near the magnetic.
You know, sometimes you don't. I
You
don't
don't
think
think
there.
about it. You're just knocking it out, and you go, "Oh, zippity doo dah!" And the next thing you
Yeah,
know, something
I
wrong.
just
You
give it a
didn't
little.
know that.
Nice. Yeah, I've not actually heard of the PEX build plate. That's an interesting one. Yeah, sounds
Yeah, a
pretty good.
company called Wham Bam sells them over in the
Yeah.
U.S. I don't know what's
Okay.
around in other continents and areas. And
Okay.
it's a nice plate, but it's a little bit different to play with, and you gotta get dialed into it. But once you're dialed in, you don't get that weird why did my print come unstuck when the one before didn't and the one after didn't. You don't
Yeah.
get into that stuff with the Creality crapshoot plates, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, those were terrible. Those are absolutely terrible.
Yeah. Yes.
On my Creality, I've got a glass plate and then I've got the magnetic plate on top of that
Hmm.
with PEI.
Okay.
Mhm.
I
And
love PI.
that doesn't need any adhesive at all. All I do is I use the steel wool. That really cleans it up really well because after I've done the steel wool, I use a piece of paper towel with the isopropyl alcohol and rub it with that, and that shows up brown. So it
Hmm.
really does a good cleaning job. And after that, the prints stick like crazy.
Yeah.
Love
But
it.
then, of course, it's magnetic, and you just bend it, and it
Yep.
pops off
Mhm.
after.
Yeah, I've got
Yeah.
PEX on a couple machines and PEI on a few. Usually, whenever I'd get a new machine, I'd jump on Amazon and I'd order a couple self stick sheets of oversized PEI and I'd do the backside because I don't like textured build plates, you know, so
Oh,
that
you use the
pretty much
smooth side.
rules out most of what comes on them.
Okay. Okay. That's interesting. The smooth side, I found it didn't have as much adhesive that I wanted. The texture side had like more adhesive. That's what I found.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
By the way, I'll also mention I don't use this on everything. Most of the time, the PEX is good enough. But when I was doing my Mandalorian helmet, where the contact areas were only like 3 points of maybe a
Yep.
quarter of an inch worth of touchdown,
Yeah.
and meanwhile it's a 26 or 28-hour print, I said
Mm.
I don't want to. A matter of fact, I used it full strength. I said I do not want it coming off, and and it didn't, and because it was such a small area, it popped off when I flipped the
Yep.
Good
when I
idea.
bent the frame.
But that's
Good
that's
idea.
when I pay the insurance of putting on of doing some glue stick mojo on a build plate
Mm.
in my place too. Printing things like um, I'm printing I've got a tugboat that is about a 3 foot long fuselage. So the hull obviously gets printed in about 7 pieces, even on something like a Cheedy uh, Max Plus 3. And being a hull, it has this lovely little narrow U shaped line of contact and this big honking mass of plastic, desperately hoping not to fall off. Oh, yeah, glue stick came to that party right away. I might have gotten away without it. I don't know, but I'm okay with using it. It cleans off easy enough.
The only issue I had with glue stick is I could never get a uniform amount of glue stick down. They'd say use very little, and then I say to myself, okay, what's the definition of very little? I'm a very quantitative person.
Mm-hmm.
Don't use too much, don't use too little, and I'd end up with maybe some areas where there's a big goo worth of it, versus other areas where it was nice thin layer. So I used glue stick in the beginning, and I guess I just did not have the either the dexterity or the patience to get the glue stick the way you needed it to be.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
I've just
that's
I've
fair.
just I've just got the bottle here that I used on my original printer, and they suggested to use the gum. You get the gum from the office supplies. It's a
Mhm.
clear gum, and it was a ratio of 240 water to 30 of the gum, and that worked quite well, and that goes on nice and smooth and everything. So it could be very similar to the glue stick once it's sort of smoothed out, but that was a good option. And I'll use that if I have something like you were talking about with the very, very fine um, spots on the plate, and to make sure it does stick. Yeah.
do you know what material that gum is? I think we're having one of those interesting, we all share a
Oh,
common language, but not common words.
Yeah. What's it called? I'll have a
Yeah,
look.
rubber,
I'll
rubber
have a
cement.
look while we're talking, and I'll put it up on the chat.
I
Okay.
wonder
Find it.
whether it's like rubber cement.
No,
That,
it's
Not
that
with
gummy.
water. I was just wondering if it was gum arabic or something of that nature, or
Hmm.
yeah.
something
No,
else.
I'll check on the
Okay.
internet.
It's not a huge deal. It's just always interesting to find out
Yeah.
about new materials you haven't played with before.
Yep.
It could be the tip of the year.
Um,
Oh yeah, I had some topics that I basically wrote down. I want to see what you guys kind of thought about like discussing a few things. So I just wrote in the same thing. So let me see what you guys think. So yeah, just these topics here. So like picking a niche to create 3D prints, obviously to sell them, right? And then designing your own models versus selling existing models, selling online versus in person, how to market 3D prints to an audience, real examples of making money with 3D printing, and then how to find a problem that 3D printing can solve. So like, do any of these kind of speak to you guys in terms of like kind of what you're experiencing right now? Do any of them like kind of stick out to you?
Now,
Well,
from my end,
yeah.
no, go ahead. You first.
I'm sorry. We've talked, Mike. You and I have talked off group and kind of somewhat on group a little bit on that. I'm not in the 3D printing for profit part of it. I'm just always interested in learning from people and things that I do and play with. So I'm going to go quiet on this part of it. It's not that I'm not interested, but I'm not part of that particular piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, definitely you can still learn plenty like with this topic, but it might not be specifically that. But yeah, it's still
And I
there.
might get a sudden urge to go nuts and start selling stuff one cold gray winter.
Yeah.
Well,
Be a fun
I'll say
adventure.
from my end, that I have two avenues that I like to go toward. One is my passion, and the other one is just a lot of fun. The passion part is I'm always looking for problems to be solved. I have companies that, oh, we got this thing, it's broken, or my wife will come to me, the handle broke on this, and I'm like, give me that, I'll take care of it. Friend of mine came to me with his motorcycle. He has these containers that he keeps spare, uh, approximately a liter of gasoline in it. But he says I can't pour it into my tank, and I don't want to carry. I don't want to be able to. I want to be able to pour it without worrying about spilling it. So I'm designing a screw top funnel that'll go on the top of the bottle, so he can pour his petrol into the motorcycle tank without getting it all over the place. If he gets to the point where he runs out of gas. Um, I told him, I said, "Don't you have a reserve on that tank?" But anyway, my thing is that I like to solve problems. I've had somebody else come to me and said, "Hey, I broke this widget, and I can't even think of this. I've done so many little stupid things that I've charged a minimal amount. I mean, probably could get more. I sometimes look for that problem that needs to be solved that I go, I'm still looking for it. I haven't found it yet. The problem that everybody has that I can that I solved it for one person and I'm able to market it to everyone else. I haven't come across that yet. My wife seems to think I have a couple of them, but I keep going, nah, that's never going to sell. But maybe I should try and find out. The other avenue is the fun part. The fun part is I make things for people for a gift around Christmas time, Easter, birthdays, anniversaries, weddings. I made all kinds of cake toppers for people. My daughter's into gymnastics. I 3D printed little gymnastics figures that she put all over her wedding cake. She thought it was cool, and yeah, I thought it was okay. It was one of those things that, I had other people come to me and say, "Oh, could you do something like that for my birthday cake?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I can do that." I had to come up with some kind of price, and again, my biggest problem is pricing. Um, I've got people telling me, "Oh, that's way too much," and I've got people telling me that's not enough, and usually the not enough comes from competition. Um, They're like, you're not charging enough. I'm like, I don't want a lot. I mean, otherwise I feel like I'm not going to be able to sell it.
Yeah.
I have the attitude of what would I pay for it? And unfortunately, I'm cheap. Uh, or my values are on the, I never pay that kind of money for that. And then I find out other people have, and I'm like, damn, I should have done that. But so that's my two avenues when it comes to picking a niche is I go for fixing or solving other people's problems is the one which I really, like I said, I have a passion for. The other one is just having fun and making things for people. And they go, oh, that was cool. Can you make one for me?
That's cool.
On the charging issue, I do have some fair experience with that. When I escaped from the cubicle farms of Lockheed in Northern Virginia, almost 20 years ago, I started a clock restoration business. And I was busy as a dog. And I raised my rates and I aimed for a 10% turn down rate on my estimates. That seemed like a reasonable thing. As it was, I was working 14 hours a day, 6 and 7 days a week, and I sometimes had a 6 or 8 month backlog in my shop. And I worked on my own. And in hindsight, and knowing what other people charge, because a lot of clock guys keep it real close to the vest. They don't put it out. I put the stuff on the website. Because I didn't want to deal with tire kickers. They were going to waste my time. But I would have charged at least twice as much for almost everything. I would have made quite a bit more money, and I would have worked probably only 2/3 as many hours. The other side to that is if you don't charge enough, one of the worst things that affected one part of my business was there was a very nice older gentleman that lived next state up north of me. I'm in Virginia. He was actually up in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania. He'd been a watchmaker his whole life, inherited the business from his dad, retired, sold the big commercial building, lived on the interest that he made off of the commercial sale. He overhauled vintage pocket watches for 35 freaking US dollars a piece just to have something to do in retirement. And he did it for the jewelers all through the area. And here I am sitting there trying to feed 3 kids and pay a mortgage. And that is a nightmare having some high quality dude not charging enough anywhere in the area you play in. So if you consider that you're making enough for yourself, you might want to add 15% of it just to help the guy down the street who's doing similar work. Because it really sucks being on the receiving end of that. I love doing watches. But this guy had an inventory of parts that went back 100 years from his dad and then him. And it's like you can't compete with that. And $35 a piece because he could do it behind his back. He was amazingly quick and did very high quality work. I can't fault him for anything but not charging enough. So
Hey,
people can say no. You'll know if you're asking too much. The orders will drop.
I
Right.
think I watch a few YouTube videos. I have no personal experience pricing for 3D prints, but one of the guys in one of the videos said he was charging way less than his buddy who was seeming to do okay and didn't have any problem with clientele, had plenty of work. And the one day they got into a conversation, and the guy that was doing well started razzing the guy that wasn't doing so hot and said, what are you charging for your prints? And the guy said, well, it works out to about $2 an hour. And the guy that was doing well said, well, that's crazy. I'm charging 6 an hour. So if your print takes 6 hours, I charge $36 and then tax on 4 or 5, whatever the price of the actual filament is. And that's how he was getting by doing it that way rather than trying to piece, oh, this, Dragon is $38 and this one's $75 because it looks fancier. It just came down to the practical use of his printer, and that seemed to be the golden rule for him.
Yeah, but $6 an hour, you might as well be saying welcome to Walmart and making twice that.
Well, that's, he also had 30 printers all going at one time. So, I mean, he was maybe undercharging for that, but still, okay, so a print takes 6 hours and you charge $10 an hour, then that's $60 for that printing.
Yeah.
But what if that print's only, a small part, like a tool of some kind, like a scraper or so that had a factor in too, I think.
It really depends on what the product can do,
Right.
the niche, and how important it is to the customer as well. Like, you have to weigh up those things together and then have a final price based on that, I think.
But you got to pay yourself.
100%.
A lot of people forget to pay themselves.
Oh, yeah. Right.
So, oh, man, I'm doing okay. Are you? Okay. Yeah. When's the last time you were able to take a week out of your shop and go on a vacation? When's the last time you didn't stay at a Red Roof Inn because it was the cheapest possible place you could find, even though it was on the skanky side of town? It's like, business is business.
Yeah, and it's surprising a lot of people don't actually include their labor in terms of how much time they spend themselves, because they're like, let's say minimum wage might be $15 an hour, maybe for a regular business it's $20 an hour. If you're spending time on your business, shipping, packing stuff, starting prints, doing post-processing, if you do that, that's all included in your time. Like, you're not working for free. You have to include that in the price as well.
People, it's funny, people that do handcraft, semi-handcraft stuff are always or frequently either way too impressed with themselves and have ridiculous numbers, or just forget to feed themselves. Oh, well, I'm just sitting here doodling along with my shop knife, cleaning up all this crud. Oh, yeah, you just spent 20 minutes on it. You're never going to get that 20 minutes back. You better get paid for it. Otherwise, there's more pleasant things you probably could have spent 20 minutes doing with your life.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It's definitely a balance. You have to figure out what's kind of like right for you. Because a lot of people, they're not actually making like a lot of sales, so I think they overdo on the amount of labor they do to kind of compensate, to try and kind of break out and make more sales, I guess.
Well, I mean, you do have to. It depends on how much competition there is for what you're doing. I was very fortunate in that clock restoration. There aren't a lot of people doing it, at least in the United States. Of the people doing it, most of them are so incredibly old, they don't even trust the World Wide Web. They don't have web pages. All I had to do was put up a web page, put a few words, magic words in, and have a Facebook page so Google would think I was legit. And I had page one. All you had to do was search on clock repair, Virginia. And I found out that that was the most frequent search term that Google used. And I bought the domain Virginia Clock Repair. Guess how easy it was for me to market? It was a no-brainer. It was a gimme. $14 a year to park a domain on top of my main one. Piddly. And I really don't know. Are most of you folks aiming at, do you do your businesses from personal referral references, folks you already know? Are you doing Etsy? Are you doing web pages, Facebook? How are you marketing yourselves?
Dominic, maybe you could say that one.
You know what? If I was good at it, I probably wouldn't be on this call right now. I'd be doing work. Um, but to be quite honest, I'm I, I'm a lousy marketer.
Mhm.
Okay. Unless I'm passionate about something. Like I'll talk to somebody about dog training, I'll bore you to death. When it comes to 3D printing, sometimes I'll talk too much, especially to people that sound like they're interested. You guys is a little bit different because I know I'm dealing with people that have been in this or are getting into it. I mean, you guys are all, I'll say seasoned. That worst case scenario. Um, I'm sure that you guys can. And again, I'm in here to try and learn stuff, but marketing. I mean, my wife and I have had a business. Actually, she's a professional picture framer, although that's what she wants to be. She has all the credentials for one. She has the shop. She has everything, but she works full time as a regulatory specialist for a pharmaceutical company, which covers her time for 14 hours a day. I take it, and I don't know nothing about framing. She can frame a museum piece, but long story short, we've been trying to get that business into something that we said the two of us could retire early. Well, I'm 67 and I only retired 2 years ago. We've had the business for 20 years, and my wife is still working because she loves it, not so much because she has to. But marketing things or is so much different than selling things. You can sell something. I feel you can always sell something, but when you want to market your business, that's a whole nother level of thinking,
Mhm.
to get your business out there so that they want to go, hey Dom, can you do this? Hey Dom, can you do that? And what I always get is, oh, I didn't know you could do that. Oh, I didn't know you could do this. I'm like, man, what have I been talking about with you people? I mean, yeah, I
Yeah,
can 3D print anything. Why did you go out and buy this piece of crap when I could do it for you? And like, oh, I didn't know you could do that.
well, it sounds like you're focused more on providing some degree of professional service where the end product is merely the implementation of a design that you've worked out. And
And
that's a
because
very different thing from marketing 8,000 articulated multicolored dragons. Totally,
exactly,
totally different sort of a
yeah,
business
that,
and function.
that is something I know nothing about. I can sit here and yes, and the service that I like to think even in 3D printing is the fact that I custom make everything for you, the customer. And that requires a certain amount of time on my part to pick your brain, figure out what does it do, how does it
Ah,
work, so on. And I charge for that. I mean, don't get me wrong, that I know my value as an engineer, what it's worth.
Right.
So I don't worry about charging, 65 to $125 an hour to sit down with somebody and say, let's talk about the problem you need. But then
Right.
we need to fix. But then once I come up with the solution, now I'm like, okay, I got to 3D print this thing. I don't know, it's worth maybe, and then I pick a number,
Yeah.
based on the material, the time it takes to print it, and
It's
but
less than
yeah,
it would have cost back in the old days when I would have had to find a 5-axis CNC mill.
yeah,
So basically, yeah, last week when I went to one of the car boot sales, right? There was actually a guy who was a 3D printer and he had his own business. So he didn't give me too much details, but he did tell me a bit about the product. The interesting thing is he sells to one company, and it's to do with tires. So he does like the inside wall of like a part of the tire. I didn't know exactly what, but he basically said there's no supports, there's no even infill. It's just literally a few walls, and that's the part. So he doesn't have to market his product. He just found like one kind of solution, and he sells to one business. So that, and he has like a few. I think he has like 14 Pruses running in his house, something like that. So that's a really good kind of like strategy in terms of making money with 3D printing rather than having to do the marketing to different people, finding one solution, getting really good at it, and just kind of sticking with that. So that's another
Yeah,
avenue.
if your objective is to be a manufacturer and purely to generate revenue, that's a lovely thing as long as that customer doesn't go away. Um, I had a friend that ran a machine shop in India, and John Deere played all kinds of games with him. And then the Chinese underwrote their guys. They pulled the business out of Feroza's shop. And then 6 months later, John Deere was back begging for help because the Chinese had taken away the subsidies, and now they were 3 times more than he was charging. And he was like, nope, sold all the fancy surface testing and metric and qualification metrology that I had to buy for you, and you're not welcome back in my shop. Go away. But it really hit him hard for about 3 months.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the trade off of are you making
You
stuff?
spell Halloween.
Yeah. That's a good point, though. The
Yeah,
thing is, if
there's a
you,
very different mindset in I'm a mass producer of an object or a specific limited number of objects versus, oh, well, okay, Halloween's coming up. We're going to print lots of ghosts and all kinds of things and have a whole lot of fun with it. And there's tombstones and there's a lot of neat stuff you can do. And then we're going to do Thanksgiving and we're going to shoot turkeys in the US and whatever. And we got Christmas, we got Boxing Day, we got Happy New Year's. There's always that if you want to be in that constantly changing environment, which some people thrive on, other people want the predictability of a manufacturing environment.
maybe you could do both. You could have like
Well,
a few 3D
you've got a
printers.
profitable line that you can tuck away on 5 or 6 printers in the back of the room and just let those pigs run until they're worn out. And then you pull the spare 2 of them out of your closet and throw them in and toss the other ones in the dumpster because they were paid for in 6 months. Rock and roll. That's a lovely way to do it. Sometimes the best way to fix a problem is literally to throw money at it. And sometimes it's the cheapest way to fix that problem is to throw money at it.
Yeah.
Every year when I was cleaning out the shop real well, I followed the old tradition of the defense industry of basically shutting down between Christmas and New Year's. And I cleaned out my shop and I went over my lathes and my mills and I made sure everything was great, examined all the cutting edges on all my tools. And meanwhile, the whole time I'm thinking about what job do I hate doing? What job is difficult? What job is prone to fail and cause me awkward situations? And how can I make those things go away? And sometimes the option was to say, no, I'm not going to work on that kind of clock anymore. Well, that's okay. That's an option. And other times it was if I converted this lathe over to a different collet holding method, I could do a lot of very nice stuff. And boom, $200 later, I just took a job that was error prone and took an hour down to a 3-minute job. Well, hot diggity dog. I just made a lot more money per hour. And the same thing happens in 3D printing. Anybody that's gone from a big, slow printer to like an A1 Mini or a Rat Rig V Minion, you just sit there and go, well, hot dang, I didn't know. I thought I had to wait that long to get that print. That's pretty sweet. So, yeah, it's that business mindset, though, of how am I going to make this work better? And don't keep doing things that don't do stuff that doesn't make you money unless you're doing it for fun. Make sure you know what's going on there.
Dan, unless
Yeah.
I misunderstood you, there is one other option, and that is take that pain in the butt job and quadruple the price on it. And if they're willing to pay you for it, I'll put up with the pain.
You know,
A lot of money.
there were a few jobs that's what I did. I just marked them up so much because I didn't want to do them. And
Yeah, hoping that they would go away, and instead they go.
and,
Yeah,
if,
okay.
and if
You
they
know,
show
darn, I
up,
should have charged you even more.
if they show up, you laugh all the way to the bank.
Mm-hmm.
Because now it's like, yeah, this is a real pain in my side, but I'm getting paid very well for that pain in my side. I'm taking my wife out for a nice dinner tonight. This was a good deal. You don't begrudge it.
Yeah, yeah. I think that the call's gonna end in like less than a minute.
Mm.
Do you guys want to hop back on, or you want to cut the meeting? Not too sure. I'm happy to
I gotta
go on
go.
for a little bit more. Oh yeah.
I've probably babbled on more than I should have and spent more.
Makes two of us.
It was fun though,
I
very
have to
fun.
go.
Okay, we'll cut the meeting there then. It's definitely nice meeting up again. Good.
A pleasure.
Yeah. Had some good discussions there. All right, next week we'll do another meeting. Yeah, Dominic, you want to say something?
I was just going to, sidebar. Stan, if you're still doing watches, contact me outside of here. No?
I'm not doing anything at all. I shut down my business 5 years ago, and now all I do.
All right, that's a cool ended. All right, great meeting. Thanks for coming, guys. Next week we'll do another meeting.